Welcome inside another edition of the pregame presented by Twitch. Vince Sapienza coming to you from the Raiders headquarters, joined alongside, once again, as always, 8-year NFL veteran, former Raiders running back Rashad Jennings. Rashad, how are we doing? Are we still in the thankful mood following Thanksgiving?
Oh, you bet. Always thankful. Always something to be thankful for, Vince, man. I'm thankful for you guys, the show, Raider Nation, life, family, all kind of things to be thankful for. I appreciate it.
Now, I think that's an important way to start because times are tough right now for the Silver and Black, right? They're in the midst of a 6-game losing streak, and, things aren't looking on the way up just yet. So before we look ahead to the matchup against the Denver Broncos on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium, I did want to get your thoughts following the Thanksgiving break and what you saw out of that Raiders-Chargers game that does give you some thankfulness, does give you some positivity maybe moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, it was under kind of a new I'd say it's hard to say fully leadership because I know the same implemented system is there, but Greg Olsen calling the plays, I thought shook things up just a little bit. He was able to get more first downs. Was able to move the ball in certain spots. Obviously, the backed up, safety, those things are just, inexcusable. And you look back and like, dang, man, missed block here. What could have happened here? What could have happened there? But I saw a little bit more feisty and competitiveness that I appreciated going against a great defense. And I don't say great lightly. It's top 5 defense in the NFL right now. And I was impressed in some spots with the Raiders defense as well. Stepping up, making some picks, getting some pressure on Bo Nick. So a lot of things to be excited for and seeing the trajectory moving up. Yes, we didn't get a victory. Yes, it's late in the season. Yes, there's a lot of bad taste in the mouth. But when you just microscopically look at the game, you can see some more positivity and heading in the right direction.
Okay, so following that coordinator change, we heard all week about how, you can't completely change the offense in 1 week. It's simply not possible with the NFL schedule and how quickly things turn around. So I'll ask you, how much can you change in 2 weeks? And how much more can Ole imprint himself on this Raiders offense?
I think the first week you kind of like, in my humble opinion, obviously I've never been an offensive coordinator, but being in the buildings and knowing kind of what it feels like to take over a new regime and the systems already implemented, it's really hard. I use it because I'm renovating a home. In 1 week, if you got 1 week to change the entire complexity of the home, it's not really going to happen. Maybe you can decorate it a little bit, put some extra motions here or there, if you will, but it's still the same system. But it takes a little bit to kind of renovate the offensive system. And I think within 2 weeks, there will be some wrinkle-specific Greg Olsen plays that we will see happen on tendencies, third downs, a couple of maybe even some – I wouldn't be surprised if we see some shot plays and some trickery plays too that will have the staple in the sense of Greg Olsen. So I look forward to a really good game this weekend. Got a great opponent, but 2 weeks – it's still hard, but I think, again, you will see some wrinkles that will show you Greg Olsen's in there and not Chip.
All right, let's focus solely now on the Denver Broncos. That is the next test for the Raiders. Week 14, Allegiant Stadium, 1:05 kickoff on Sunday. Now, this is round 2 with the Denver Broncos. And when we look back at that first meeting in Denver, offense was tough to come by for both teams, clearly, in a 10-7 game. But conditions obviously weren't conducive. It was windy. There was a lot of different things going on. How different is this game, in your opinion, going to be when you consider, Denver's fighting for not just to stay atop the AFC West, they're fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC heading into the postseason, while the Raiders are just trying to snap a 6-game losing streak.
Absolutely. I think that they need to stay up top. My humble opinion, I think that Denver is has the best record with probably one of the least probabilities to win a Super Bowl.
They've had to come back in every game they've played. They've had to come back in every game they've won. So I think I get what you're saying. Maybe not the best 10-win team we've ever seen at this point of the season.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it, Vince. Obviously, when you turn on the tape and watch them, they play, their defense flies around. Their offense, they got some good players in good spots, good positions, but they're just not consistently clicking. And when you deal with somebody in the division twice, and you deal with a defense that's led by Max Crosby, who will never stop, who's an engine, who's a motor. He's going to keep that defense ready. He's going to keep that defense riled up. And I think we're going to see a very great competitive game, more than Vegas would say. No pun intended there. But I say because, when you're late in the season and you're scrappy and everybody's fighting for jobs, and Denver is kind of feeling like on a high, and honestly, they can lose this game and be completely fine and get into the playoffs. Obviously, they don't want that. They're trying to scrap for home field advantage somewhere along the way. So I think we're going to see a competitive game, Vince, for sure. But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised at the scoreboard at the end of it.
Yeah, Rashad, I don't want to get all doom and gloom, but, the numbers aren't pretty, right? And I know the game's not played with numbers, but if you just look at some of the numbers, you talked about the Chargers' top 5 defense in the league, right? Well, the Broncos' total defense is ranked 5th. Their pass defense is 9th. Their rush defense is 5th, and points allowed per game is 4th. And then conversely, for the Raiders offense, as we know, it's been tough sledding. Total offense is 30th, pass offense 26th, 32nd in the run game. I know that just makes your skin crawl. And they are second to worst in points per game. So on paper, this seems as big of a mismatch as possible. But why do you think the Raiders could be able to level this thing out here at home?
No way does anybody ever want to finish the season last in a category that's predominant on how you win football games. So I definitely believe full-heartedly, no coach wants to have that on their resume or their name. So I expect the last stretch that the run game will definitely throw in some more. We'll see double tight ends. We'll see extra linemen. We're going to see something, and maybe it's going to be the complexity comes down. I'm not sure. I'm not in the room. But I do know nobody wants to finish that way, and I think we'll see a change. Yeah,
obviously a lot of that is going to be predicated on how the offensive line plays. It has not been great this season, specifically in the last few weeks. 15 sacks given up in the last 2 games, 22, I believe it is, in the last 3 games. And as we just talked about, they're just averaging 75 yards on the ground per game, which is dead last in the league. Now, obviously, Ashton Jeanty is doing what he can, but it all starts with the big boys up front. We'll see what the injury report looks like at the end of the week and who is available come Sunday. But Caleb Rogers in 17 snaps this past Sunday looked like he fared well as a rookie, making his first start, getting his first action in the National Football League. Antonio Mafi getting some run as well. What is going to be the biggest key to getting this offensive line? I'm not even going to say, top half of the league, but just get them to where the ball is moving forward.
Yeah, simplicity and making sure everybody's on the same page. Again, never been in a room. I just know in the rooms that I've been in, what coordinators make it very simple. Dive left, dive right. Here's your man. Here's your space. Here's the projection. Here's who you're going to block. Hat on hat. Those type of things. Makes it very easy, the kiss, keep it simple, stupid, right? And, and so sometimes when we've looked at the film, sometimes you see guys miscuing, one guy may pull, one guy looks left, one guy looks right. And folks, we're human. Everybody makes mistakes. I've made mistakes on the field. We jump offside. All of those things happen. But what you want to do is try to minimize the consistent mistakes. It's okay to jump offsides once. But if you do it again and again, it's like, okay, now we got to look at you. So I think everybody's going to be evaluated. But I think a lot of people are going to be excited, too, because it is going to be simple. A hat on the hat. You got a great challenge in front of you. You got one of the better defenses in the league. Therefore, if you're an offensive lineman who wants to bid to continue to play in the National Football League, whether it's a Raiders helmet on a Raiders logo on the side of your helmet or somebody else's, there is going to register in your head, I have to perform well, and here's a great opportunity to do it against a great defense to prove who I am in the National Football League. So I suspect that every offensive lineman, every tight end, every wide receiver are going to try to put the best film they can on tape.
Yeah, we know the Raiders want to run the ball, but it's almost a necessity to run the ball if they want victory, specifically against this opponent in the Denver Broncos, that vaunted defense, that defensive line that absolutely gets after offenses. And on top of that, Patrick Surtain is back in this game, something that the Raiders did not see him when they first played them a few weeks ago in Denver. So help Geno by getting the run game going, and it starts with the big guys up front. All right, let's jump to the other side. You said that you saw some good things out of the Raiders defense this past week. You know, Bo Nix has had an affinity to let it fly, let it rip, be maybe a little over-aggressive. Caillou Blue Kelly was a recipient of 2 INTs the first time they met. And the Raiders defense did a really good job against this Broncos offense, and it feels like the team as a whole is going to have to rely on that Raiders defense again this Sunday.
Yeah, and I think we all can see, Blue Kelly is kind of making the name and showing who he is. And, I like Chin back there. It's a bunch of guys that you see flying around. White still flying around making plays. I think this defense can play. And in the last half of the season, if it was zeroed out, I mean, I think we're mid-pack right now in the defense. Like, our defense has been playing well. Overall, we put them in some tough situations, quick turnovers, putting other teams in field goal range immediately. I mean, the momentum, all those things matter. But it's big special team play. Special teams going to have to shut down, make sure everybody's that Denver's always starting, at least in on their side of the hash. And also on the 20-yard line, I think a couple punt returns, we have the upper hand on our special team play and the guys that we have back there. Raheem Mostert is a kick returner. I think he's one play away from still showing how fast he is. I mean, him and what's his name? Tyreek Hill was one of the fastest guys in the league a few years ago, and he's still there. So I think we have to lean on all aspects of the game to make this very competitive and win. But the defense is I can hang my hat on that. I believe that the defense is going to step up. I think they're going to make a play. I think they're going to get a turnover. And honestly, Denver doesn't show that much of promise in run game to me right now, especially with Dobbins out.
Yeah, you hit it smack on. Total defense for the Raiders sitting at 16th in the NFL right now. And their biggest thing is being able to get off the field. But again, that's where that complementary football comes in. Rashad running the ball, keeping the offense on the field so your defense can get a breather, get some rest, and then force some turnovers. How different for you was when you played a team in your division for the second time that season? Right? Like, we talk about anytime there's a division game, it's always going to be a close game because both teams know each other so well. So is there ever an advantage to the team who loses that first one to the second one, regardless of records or schedules or where the game is at? Is there any advantage if you lose that first one the second time around?
I say it like this to answer both questions. One, playing somebody in your division twice, the second time the game is slower. And the reason why is because you pick it up on so many cues. It's no different between working with somebody, right? Like, you kind of understand the pace and their tempo and when to jump in. And the same thing when you meet the same opponent twice, you actually, inside of the helmet, folks, that you can't see on TV, I am looking across the aisle, across that ball, and I'm staring at defensive linemen's eyes, tendencies, hand placements. I'm looking at where they're triggering, how they're moving, how they're scanning. And my eyes are telling me a lot. So I get to pick up all of that information. I jot it down as a pro, right? The difference between professional athletes and NFL athletes. A pro is going to write down all the notes that he got from the job. And next time we go to work, I got all your tendencies, expectations, third downs, how you reacted this time, where you're weak at, if you're left-handed, right-handed, like all these things come into play. And folks, yes, you're in the division, you play the same team twice, right? I'll say it like this, you play the same organization twice. But teams are different every single year. It's never the same 53-man roster. That thing turns over like crazy. So you are playing different teams. So the first time you play, that organization is a new team every year. So the second time you play that same team, you will see a big, major gap of a difference.
I think that's fantastic insight by you, because the first person I think of as you're talking about that is Caillou Blue Kelly. The first time these two met, Caillou early on in the season kind of, getting it taken to him a little bit, a lot of yards being put on him. And then we see him against the Chargers in their second meeting with Justin Herbert. He passes off the the switch route, and all of a sudden he picks off Justin Herbert in the end zone. It's, a game-changing play at the time for the Raiders. So that's great by you. So my first thought is, what an advantage this game could be in terms of the development, the evolution, the growth of a lot of the young players on this team, specifically the rookies. And I look at players like a Jack Besh or even an Ashton Jeanty, regardless of what the offensive line is doing, just knowing what he can and can't get away with.
Yeah, and Besh, he's a guy that I really like. I've been talking about him since the beginning of the season. I think he's gonna have one of those moments where you look up and say, okay. Yeah. He gonna have that Devontae Wicks type of moment. Like, oh yeah. Okay, this makes sense. And I waiting for that, anticipating that. And obviously it always starts up front. Geno Smith, if he doesn't have time to throw the ball, he's not going to do it. If Ashton Jeanty has no holes to run through, he'll bounce off, pinball a couple people, but it's hard to get yards. And so it always starts up front in the trenches. We understand that. It doesn't matter what team you are. It doesn't matter who your offensive coordinator, head coach, any of that. So aside from that, yeah, it's fun. It's exciting football in Raider Nation. Listen, I know it hasn't happened this year how we wanted it. That's just facts. But still, when you're looking on to these football games late in the season, it's in December, a lot to play for the players. Now, obviously, as a fandom, we know we're not making the playoffs, not making the Super Bowl this year. Okay, but what are we looking for, right? What are we evaluating? And those are the things that I think are super important as a true fan of the game and a true fan of a team that you're paying attention to. And you want to see effort. You're always staring at effort, right? How are they playing? When they know nothing's in front of them, how are they committed to the game? How are they committed to the organization? How are they committed to their craft and growing? How can we evaluate what we are looking for? So there's a lot to be played for. I'm excited to see this game.
Yeah, in particular to Jack Besh, 5 games left in the season. Feels like, last week he's starting to come on, right? Because in the previous couple weeks, it was 8 snaps on offense. That jumped to 27 this past week, and he got, I believe, 19 of those snaps were passing plays. So, again, small steps, probably baby steps, not as big as Raider Nation was hoping for, but it seems like these last 5 games will be critical for him to take bigger steps. And another rookie I do want to talk about and just kind of pick your brain about is Ashton Jeanty. I know we've talked a lot about him a lot. He's averaging 73 yards away per game from eclipsing that 1,000-yard threshold, and which, is a fairly important milestone, I think, for any running back at the NFL, regardless of where you're at. But he was asked, how does he analyze his progress from a week-to-week basis this season? And he simply said it has nothing to do with the stats, right? It's going back, look at the tape, seeing, did I get better at pass blocking? Did I get better at reading, reacting quicker? So, for a lot of fans, and I'm not just putting this on the fans, but for those that just sit there and look at the numbers and be like, well, Ashton Jeanty's, is he worthy of that 6th overall pick? How do you, when you're watching the tape, looking him live, whatever it may be, how much have you seen the growth, whether it be from week 1, week 2 to where he is today?
He's growing a lot as a professional athlete, man. As a runner, specifically, one of the things that I like that he does is it seems like he's starting to see beyond the first read. And so in the NFL, running backs, we have reads, right? Every play is designed to run somewhere specific. And what happens often in your inside zones, for example, you got a double team. There's always a double team somewhere in the inside zone. So what are you doing? You're reading the double team. All right, you're reading a 3 technique to the double team. Is the double team going from the center, from center and guard to the linebacker, or is the double team your tackle and your guard on that 3 technique? It depends. So he's starting to, at the beginning of the season, he was staring at his first read. Now I can see him starting to look at the secondary a little bit in his read, which opens up your bigger plays, your harder, efficient runs. Because, you want to run through contact. You don't want to run to it. And that's a big deal between somebody getting 2 yards and 3 yards. You might ask, Rashad, what's the difference between 2 yards and 3 yards? How many times have we had 4th down and 1? And those are the hidden yardages we talk about in the National Football League. And these things can actually be taught. Now, you can't teach somebody to spin off of bounce everybody and make everybody miss and all these crazy tackles. Some of that can't be taught. It's either you got it or you don't. But what can be taught is how to visually see, right? We all could be taught how to drive and how the rules work on the road, but everybody can't be a NASCAR driver, right? And so what I'm saying is I've seen him seem like he's been taking a little bit more time in the film room. I like him to continue that. I like him to get that 1,000 yards. So it's a momentum moving forward into the offseason, big time. It's an accomplishment for him. And also it sets with a new breath of air going into the next season. But for him, he's growing. I like what I'm seeing. Only thing I would ever say, and I think he's probably said this a million times to himself now, anytime you're backed up, dive, do anything you can to get out there. But that was just a busted play. But no, he's growing and I like him. And I'm glad we got him at 6.
All right, so as we wrap this up here on the pregame, we hear athletes in every sport talk about blocking out the noise, right? And it's obvious of where the Raiders are at right now. Mathematically eliminated. The season did not go where they wanted. 10 losses in their last 11 games, 6-game losing streak. We get all that. As an athlete, how difficult is it to block out the noise of what may come later, what's going to happen next season, what's going to happen in a month and a half from now? Can you explain the difficulty of what that's like, if it is at all?
Yeah, you do have to block out the noise. You do. It's hard to do sometimes. And it's the hardest, when it's at its hardest, is when you're not moving to the music. If you're dancing to the music, you really can't hear nothing because you in the zone, right? But once you find yourself off beat to the music, that music is loud because you heard it, right? And so when you feel yourself in the NFL, it's week 14, you're not where you want to be, and you're not where you want to be because you haven't been moving to the music like you thought. You start to hear the ding, ding, dings and yells and this and that, and we should be this, fire this person, fire this person. Everybody got an opinion about you, right, to dissect you. And when you're doing well, everybody got an opinion. Yeah, it's the greatest thing. I told you. And then as soon as you don't win, you fumble the ball. See, well, they need to change this. Everybody's a head coach now, right? Everybody's a GM now. So you have to silence the noise, turn that down a little bit, right? And realize you can't ride the praises. You can't ride the noise. Don't get on the up and down roller coaster. Stay even keel. Have a focus. Have a mentor. Have something to get you through your entire career, because it's never going to stop, folks. I mean, I don't care who you are, where you are, what you do. When you do something on a premium level, somebody's going to have an opinion about you consistently. And baseball is the only sport I personally know that you can be 30% and be a hero. National Football League, you 30%, you going to scream at the TV. So it's a different sport, and you got to love it, and you got to love the boos too. You got to appreciate all the sounds, because even the boos remind you where you are in life. Incredible insight.
What else is incredible? It took 14 weeks to get our first dancing music reference from our Dancing with the Stars champion, Rashad Jennings. There it is. He still got the moves. He's still got them. Rashad, as always, appreciate the insight, the analysis, the stories. This has been the pregame presented by Twitch. You can find all our episodes up on Raiders.com, Raiders YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast. Raider Nation, enjoy the game at Allegiant Stadium. 1:05 kickoff. The Denver Broncos coming to town against your Las Vegas Raiders. We will talk to you next week. Again, enjoy the game.